My wife stole my savings to run away with my cousin, but after I sold my startup for $50 million, she came back furious, demanding her legal share. I just handed her divorce papers and a lawsuit demanding they return every cent or go to jail. I need you to lend me $4,000 for my sister's business. It's urgent, my wife asked me during breakfast without looking up from her phone. We can't use the joint account. You know that's for the Asia trip. Let's not touch it. I transferred her the money. She was my wife. What could go wrong? That night I came home late after closing the first investment round for my startup. The house lights were off. I turned the key and an empty echo greeted me. The living room was bare. Our sofa, the TV, the dining table, everything was gone. All that remained was a single mattress on the floor and an old armchair in the corner. My phone vibrated. An Instagram video. My wife and my cousin at an airport. Luxury suitcases, smiling. The location tag said, heading to Bali. The caption broke me in two. Thanks for financing our future, you fool. P.S. Check our joint account. I rushed to my laptop. Balance $0. Our $47,000 in savings was gone. My cousin had commented on the post, thanks for the sponsorship, little cousin. I just stood there, surrounded by the crumbs of my life, holding my laptop as if it were the only real thing left. The first 3 days were the worst. I didn't sleep, barely ate, and every time I closed my eyes, I saw their mocking faces. But on the 4th day, something changed. I woke up with a mental clarity I hadn't felt in years. The first thing I did was call my lawyer. Marcos, I need to see you urgently. I've been robbed and I have proof. How much money? $47,000. My wife and my cousin emptied our joint account. Silence on the other end. Come to my office right now. In his office, I showed him the Instagram screenshots, the bank transfers, the account statements, everything. Marcos reviewed each document with a look of disbelief. This is theft aggravated by a breach of trust. We also have a case for marital fraud. He took off his glasses. Do you want to get the money back or do you want justice? Both. Perfect. First, we're going to file a criminal complaint. Second, we're going to freeze any assets they have. And third, he smiled, every penny they spend will be evidence we'll use against them. I left his office with a folder full of forms and a strange sensation. For the first time in days, I had control over something. Filing the police report was cathartic. The officer looked at me seriously as I explained everything. Do you have proof of the transfers? I showed him my phone. Here they are spending my money in Bali while I'm eating ramen. This is clear cut. We'll proceed. Meanwhile, something strange was happening with my work. Without my wife's constant negativity, my productivity skyrocketed. I no longer had to explain why I was working late or justify every extra hour. I dove into the code like never before. My startup had been negotiating with 3 major investors, but I had been distracted by marital drama. Now, with a clear mind, I closed the first round in 2 weeks. $500,000 in seed funding. What happened to you, my partner asked. A month ago, you were stressed out, and now you're like a machine. I eliminated distractions, I told him without explaining further. But what truly motivated me was seeing their posts. Every day they uploaded more ridiculous photos, gourmet dinners, luxury hotels, they even bought expensive watches, all with my money. My cousin had commented on one photo, living the life we deserve. The idiots weren't even trying to hide the source of the money. A mutual friend sent me screenshots because they had blocked me. Dude, not your wife. Wow, and with your cousin. But they're living like kings. Where did they get so much cash? It's complicated, man. That's in the past. And the money, I'll tell you later, I replied. What they didn't know was that every extravagant purchase was additional evidence for my case. Marcos had explained it to me. The more they spend, the easier it will be to prove they knew they were using stolen money. The call that broke me was for my aunt, my cousin's mother. My son, is it true you're suing your wife? Auntie, she stole $47,000 from me. Oh, but she's a young woman. She needs to enjoy life. You were always so cheap. I hung up. That night I blocked that entire side of the family. But the real surprise came when Marcos called with news from the financial investigation he had done on my cousin. Did you know your cousin is up to his eyeballs in credit card debt? My blood ran cold. What? Personal loans, maxed out cards, he even owes money to a loan shark. That whole luxury life he projects is pure smoke. He's broke. That's when I understood everything. They hadn't robbed me out of greed, they had robbed me out of desperation. My cousin was drowning in debt and saw my wife as the perfect opportunity. They're living on borrowed time, I told Marcos. In 2 months max, they'll be out of money. Exactly. And when that happens, they'll be desperate. While they were burning through my money in Bali, I was working 16-hour days on my startup. The irony was delicious. They had left me with no distractions just when I needed to focus the most. And then the call that changed everything happened. A voice from a major tech company executive was on the line. We've been following your application. We want to talk to you about a possible acquisition. My heart raced. Acquisition. We'd prefer to discuss numbers in person. Can you come to our office next week? I hung up, trembling. I immediately called Marcos. If this goes the way I think it will, I told him, my ex is going to want to come back. And what are you going to do? I looked out the window at the empty street. Give her exactly what she deserves. The meeting with the company was surreal. They offered me $50 million for my startup. $50 million. We need an answer in 72 hours, they said. I called Marcos from the parking lot. I'm accepting the offer, but I want the news of the sale to be made public the same day it becomes official. Why? Because I need certain people to find out. That night, while they were posting photos of themselves toasting in Singapore, I was signing the most important contract of my life. In less than a week, I was going to be a multimillionaire, and they had no idea what was coming. The news of the sale went public on a Tuesday morning. TechCrunch published the article at 9:17 a.m. Startup Loco sold for $50 million to tech giant. By 10 a.m., it had been picked up by every tech blog in the country. The first call came at 11:23 a.m. Unknown number, international code. Hello. I feigned ignorance of the voice. It's me, my ex-wife said. Her tone had changed completely. It was no longer the mocking voice from the airport. It sounded calculating. I see the company did well. Who is this? Don't play dumb. I read the news. 50 million. The company was developed during our marriage, right? What does that matter? It matters because legally I'm entitled to half. I laughed. I actually laughed. Seriously. After robbing me and fleeing the country, that was a misunderstanding. We can fix this. We need to talk. Perfect. My lawyer will handle all future communication. I hung up. The second call came 5 minutes later. My cousin, we need to talk in person. This is important. Now I'm cousin. Interesting. Look, we know you're upset about the money, but this is different. This is big. We can work everything out. Sure. I'll see you Friday at 3 p.m. at the law firm that handled the sale. I'll text you the address. Lawyers, no better somewhere neutral. It's there or nowhere. I hung up and called Marcos immediately. They took the bait so quickly. They're coming on Friday. They want their legal share. Perfect. I have everything ready. On Friday, they arrived together in an Uber. I watched them from the 12th floor window. She was wearing an expensive dress I recognized she bought with my money in Bali. He wore a suit I'd never seen before, probably also financed by me. They walked into the conference room as if they were there to close a multi-million-dollar deal. She sat across from me with a smile that tried to be intimidating. He settled in beside her, acting as her advisor. Well, she said, crossing her legs, let's talk numbers. Marcos, my lawyer, opened a folder. Before we begin, I must inform you that this conversation is being recorded for legal purposes. Her smile faltered for a second. No problem, my cousin said. We're recording too. Perfect, Marcos replied. Let's begin. What exactly is your claim? She sat up straight. The company was developed during our marriage. Legally, I am entitled to half of the 50 million, 25 million. And on what basis do you make that claim? Marcos asked. Community property law, everything acquired during the marriage is divided equally. My cousin nodded. It's the law. There's no getting around it. Marcos looked at them intently. I see. And are you aware of the pending criminal complaint against you both for aggravated theft? The silence filled the room like toxic smoke. That, she said after a few seconds, is a completely separate matter. Separate. Marcos opened another folder. I have here documentation of unauthorized transfers for $47,000 made, while the gentleman present here was working on the development of the company that was later sold for $50 million. My cousin shifted uncomfortably in his chair. That was money from the joint account. She had the right to use it, to flee the country after emptying the marital home. That's not related to the rights over the company, she insisted, but her voice no longer sounded so confident. Ah, Marcos smiled. Because as I understand it, the reason my client was able to focus completely on his work was precisely because you two eliminated all distractions from his life, including the furniture. That's when my cousin made his first mistake. So what happened to our things? He changed the locks. Marcos and I exchanged a look. Our things, my ex kicked him under the table, but it was too late. What things exactly? Marcos pressed. Nothing, he's confused, she said quickly. No, I'm not confused, my cousin said, clearly frustrated. We sold everything we could to finance the trip, and now he's changed the locks and we can't get back what was left. The silence that followed was delicious. So Marcos said slowly, you sold the marital property without the coroner's authorization. My ex looked pale. It's complicated. Complicated, or is it another form of theft? She stood up abruptly. We didn't come here to be interrogated. We came to negotiate a fair division. Sit down, Marcos said firmly. We're not finished. Yes, we are finished, my cousin said, also standing. We'll hire our own lawyer. Excellent idea, I replied, speaking for the first time in the entire meeting. My lawyer will be waiting for your call. They stormed out of the room like a hurricane, but I knew they'd be back. 25 million is a lot of money to let go of. What do you think? I asked Marcos after they left. They're idiots. They just confessed to selling your property and confirmed they acted in concert to steal from you and flee. Does that help us? That wins us the case. A week later, they did indeed hire a lawyer, an expensive guy from a big firm who had clearly charged them a fortune up front. They filed a formal lawsuit claiming $25 million. Their strategy was simple: argue that the theft of $47,000 was a minor domestic issue compared to the injustice of denying her right to have the sale. The lawsuit hit the local media. Ex-wife sues for $500,000 sale was the headline. For 3 days, I received calls from reporters asking for my side of the story. I didn't say a word, but the PR team of the company that bought me did speak. A simple statement: after a thorough investigation of the seller's character and background, we confirm he is a person of exceptional integrity. We fully stand by the acquisition. That statement killed any narrative of me being the villain. Their lawyer called me directly. Sir, my client is willing to negotiate. How does 10 million sound? 0, be reasonable. 7 million. 5, tell her that for every cent she stole from me, I'm going to take it back with interest. That sounds like a threat. No, that sounds like a promise. I hung up. 2 days later, Marcos received a formal mediation proposal. They wanted to sit down with a neutral mediator to resolve this like civilized adults. What do you think? Marcos asked me that they're desperate. Exactly. And mediation is where desperate people make fatal mistakes. We accept, but we're not going to mediate. We're going to execute. The date was set for the following Friday. Same place, same conference room, but this time we'd have a mediator present, and unbeknownst to them, a surprise I had been preparing since the day they left. Ready for the final round. Marcos asked me the night before. More than ready, I replied. They've been digging their own grave for months. Tomorrow we're just handing them the shovel. That night I barely slept. I had been waiting for this moment for a long time. Tomorrow, finally, they were going to understand what it means to steal from the wrong person. The mediation room had that electric tension that precedes a storm. They arrived 5 minutes late, clearly nervous. She wore a suit that tried to look professional but looked cheap. He wore the same suit from the previous meeting, now wrinkled. Their lawyer, a tall man with an air of superiority, walked in as if he owned the place. The mediator, an older man with a face that had seen it all, reviewed the documents. I understand there's a dispute over community property from a business sale. Correct, their lawyer said confidently. My client is legally entitled to half of the 50 million. The company was developed during the marriage with her emotional support and personal sacrifice. Marcos, my lawyer, said nothing. He just smiled. Emotional support, the mediator asked. Could you elaborate? My ex sat up straight, transforming into the perfect victim. I maintained the home while he worked. I sacrificed my career to support his. Without my emotional stability, he never would have been able to focus on his company. I wanted to laugh, but I stayed quiet. Interesting, Marcos finally said. Could we talk about that emotional stability? He opened his briefcase and took out a thick folder. Ma'am, is it true that on March 15 you withdrew $47,000 from the joint marital account without your husband's authorization? She looked at her lawyer. I had the right to access that account, to flee the country after emptying the marital home. That's not relevant to the rights over the company, her lawyer interrupted. Oh, but it is, Marcos smiled more broadly, because as I understand it, it was precisely after that emotional support that my client was able to fully concentrate on his work. He placed a detailed timeline on the table. Let's see. March 15, theft and flight. March 18, my client closes the first investment round. April 2, key contract with a major client. April 15, Google expresses interest. April 22, the sale is closed. It seems you two eliminated the distraction at the perfect moment. That's a malicious interpretation, her lawyer said, but he sounded less sure. Malicious. Marcos pulled out another folder. I have here the financial report of the gentleman who accompanied your client on her romantic adventure. My cousin tensed visibly. Credit card debts of over $50,000, personal loans, a car loan 3 months behind. Marcos looked directly at him. This is the winner you abandoned my client for, a man who lives on appearances and who helped you spend your own future. I watched as my ex's face fell apart. She looked at my cousin with an expression I had never seen before, pure shock mixed with betrayal. Is that true? She asked in a trembling voice. My cousin shifted uncomfortably. It's temporary, her voice broke. I blew up my marriage for someone who's broke. Calm down, her lawyer whispered. Marco seized the moment. My client is prepared to be generous. He will drop the criminal theft charges, which carry a sentence of up to 5 years in prison if the lady signs this divorce agreement, waiving all claims and commits to returning the $47,000 within 180 days. The silence that followed was absolute. Their lawyer reviewed the papers. This is very specific. How do we know he'll actually drop the charges? I understand you may have doubts, Marco said, but please be aware that my client is giving you a one-time opportunity that will not be repeated. My ex was trembling, and if I can't get the money, then you will face the criminal charges and my client will seek maximum damages in the civil suit. It was then that my cousin exploded. He shot up, pointing at her. It was her idea. She said you were financially finished and that she deserved that money. I just helped her. The final betrayal. He threw the woman he supposedly loved under the bus to save his own skin. My ex looked at him with a mixture of horror and disbelief. What did you just say? You heard me, my cousin continued, unfiltered. You said he was a loser, that he would never amount to anything, that you deserved to live better. You said it was your right. Shut up, she screamed, but it was too late. The mediator raised his hand. Gentlemen, this is highly irregular. Marcos was taking notes furiously. He just confessed to conspiracy and premeditation. My cousin realized what he had done. No, I didn't. That's not what I meant. It's exactly what you meant, I replied for the first time in the session. You just confirmed that everything was planned. My ex looked at me with tears in her eyes. Not of sadness, but of pure rage. You had this all planned, didn't you? You knew we would come, you knew he would talk. I didn't know anything, I answered honestly, but I hoped your true natures would come to light. And they just did. Their lawyer closed his briefcase. I need to speak with my clients in private. They left the room. Through the glass, we watched them argue violently. She was screaming at my cousin. He was gesticulating desperately. The lawyer tried to calm them down. When they returned, her eyes were red, but she had a cold determination. I'll sign, she said in a hoarse voice, but I want you to know something. She looked directly at me. I'm not signing because I'm guilty. I'm signing because I can't win against someone who plans revenge for months. It wasn't revenge, I replied. You just got what you deserved, nothing more, nothing less. Be grateful I showed you mercy, something you didn't show me. She took the pen with trembling hands. Each signature was a nail in the coffin of her greed. The $47,000, she said as she signed the last page. It's what I spent in Bali. I don't have it. Then you better get a job, I replied. When she finished, my cousin tried to approach her. She rejected him with a look of absolute contempt. This isn't over. You're going to have to help me pay, she yelled at him. My cousin looked at her as if to say, yeah, right, and shrugged. Help you with what? You heard your ex. I'm broke. Besides, this was your idea from the beginning. You're a coward, she screamed, completely out of control. You promised we would be in this together. That was when I thought we were going to be rich, my cousin responded coldly. I'm not going to jail for you. Figure it out yourself. He headed for the door without looking back. You can't leave me like this. Her voice broke completely. You said you loved me. My cousin stopped at the door and looked at her one last time. I told you what you wanted to hear. Just like you told him, he said, pointing at me. The difference is he actually had real money, and he left. My ex just stood there, holding the signed papers, completely alone. The woman who had arrived demanding $25 million was leaving with a debt of $47,000 and without even the support of the man for whom she had risked everything. Satisfied, Marcos asked me. I wasn't looking for satisfaction, I replied, standing up. I was looking for justice, and I found it. Marcos packed his documents as she shuffled out, defeated. How do you feel, my lawyer asked. At peace, I answered sincerely. For the first time in months, completely at peace. Leaving the building, I took a deep breath. The air had never tasted so clean. It's been 5 months since the mediation. My ex made exactly 2 payments towards the $47,000, $800 the first month and $600 the second. After that, total silence. With the 180-day deadline expiring in a few weeks, Marcos is already preparing to reactivate the criminal charges. I told you so, he explained over the phone. People like that never change. She is currently facing up to 3 years for aggravated theft. Her expensive lawyer dropped her when she ran out of money to pay him. Now she has a rookie public defender. My cousin disappeared completely. His social media is gone, his phone disconnected. A mutual friend told me his creditors found him and repossessed his car. Apparently he moved in with his mom in another city. But what struck me the most was what my sister told me last week. My ex tried to contact her to borrow money. She told me you were a vindictive person and that she just needed $5,000 for lawyers, my sister explained. I told her to first pay back what she stole from you. My ex's response was revealing. He doesn't need that money. He's a millionaire now. That sentence sums it all up. In her mind, stealing from me is justified because I have money. She never understood that it wasn't about the amount, but about the action and how she betrayed me. Although this no longer concerns me, my lawyer will handle those matters. As for me, I'm planning to take a vacation and travel as I always wanted to. I intend to visit Japan, Thailand, New Zealand, but that will be another story. I'll continue to take my time deciding what I'll do from now on. Sometimes I wonder if I was too harsh, if I crossed a line, if I should have been more compassionate. But then I remember that night, coming home to an empty house after the best professional day of my life. I remember their laughter in that video, mocking the look on my face when I saw they had emptied everything. Did I go too far? What would you have done in my place?